As women, we are often led to believe that you can't have a career and be a mom at the same time. Well, I know from experience that isn't true. And while it's difficult, it's not impossible. In fact, choosing to follow your dreams while simultaneously immersing yourself fully into motherhood makes you work even harder because you have to set an example for your child. How can you teach your child to actively achieve their dreams if you aren't? Just like with my guest today, Adaire Byerly, a behavioral scientist and CEO of her own company. She is also a single mom to a 9-year-old boy that is homeschooled. How she manages to flourish in her career and teach her son to be the best version of himself on a daily basis is remarkable and admirable. This is part 6 of We Need to Talk Motherhood. Adaire Byerly, welcome back to the show. I am so excited to talk to you about your motherhood journey.
Thanks for having me.
If you remember, Adaire, we had her on before talking about being the CEO of Entertainment Mindframe, but today we are going to dive into her journey of motherhood. And this series has been really enlightening for me, and I love the wide range of motherhood experiences that we've talked about. And what I want to talk about with you, because you are the CEO of your own company, you're also a model, you're very business oriented and very busy. And I also know that you are a single mom. You also homeschool your son. So there's so many things in that little bit that I just mentioned that I want to tackle with you. But let's just go back to the beginning. When you were ready to have a child, how did you know that you were at a place in your life that you wanted to give birth to a child?
Ooh, honestly, I don't looking back, I didn't think I was ready.
Mm.
I felt in my mind that I was ready. When I grew up, my whole family was just like they knew I was gonna have kids because I was just motherly at a very early age. I would bring my little baby dolls around with me in the house everywhere I went. I would take them in the car with me. Um, so I was just, and I'm the oldest of all my siblings, so I was kind of like the second mom anyway. So I always had this motherly instinct, but when I first got pregnant with my son, I did not, I didn't think I was ready, only because, mainly because I was young. I was 20 years old, turning 21. And the guy that I was with at the time who I married, I didn't really know him that
Mm.
well. I just thought, okay, well, he's a good guy. He's nice. He was responsible. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't going to cheat on me. I was so young, and I was just comparing it to everything else I had before, which was just a lot of toxicity.
Mm.
And so, but I felt it's just funny because I always heard like you can plan for a baby all you want, but as soon as it as soon as you're pregnant and as soon as it gets here, you're like, oh my God, every single time. So I had so many different people telling me like you're gonna be fine, you know, babies come and sometimes we don't know what to do, even if we think we're ready, because I thought I was ready.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when he got here, I just it was the craziest thing. So when I gave birth to him, at first he wasn't breathing. And I remember just the whole room went silent to me. Like I had one of those animalistic moments and I was just staring at him, and I would not stop staring at him until they could get him to breathe. And it took
Mm.
a little bit of time. And I wasn't scared or anything. I was just so zoned in. Um, and as soon as he took that breath and started crying, I relaxed and I put my head
Mm.
back and I said to myself that I was like, I have to do right. I
Mm.
have to do right. Even if I don't know what I'm doing, I have to trust that, this baby was given to me with all the tools that I need to raise this
Yeah,
child,
yeah.
throughout its entire life. Cause you don't ever stop being a parent, you
Right.
know, even if they move out of the house, you don't ever stop.
For
So
sure,
when
for
they laid him
sure.
on my chest, his eyes were wide open. He actually came out with his eyes open, which was really weird.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, but when he came, when he laid on my chest, his eyes were wide open, and I remember looking at him, and he was just looking at me with such, assurance, like, "Yeah, you're my mom," like, and I said, "Okay, well, he trusts me. He trusts me to do my job, so I'm gonna trust myself to do it." And I just remember that exchange in that moment when he was laying on my chest, and even though I felt maybe I wasn't really ready,
Yeah.
I just kind of bossed up and said, "Okay, well, I'm ready."
Yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah.
that moment, and I love that you still have that memory because your son's 9 now,
He's 9.
and
Yeah.
that just has stuck with you this whole
Oh
time, and
yeah.
that's so
I still
beautiful.
remember what his eyes looked like.
That's beautiful. Do you feel like in that moment, that's when you really stepped into your purpose as a mother, or did you think it took time for you?
That's a really good question, because to be honest, I feel like I'm continuously um, trying to be better and leaning
Yeah,
into myself as a woman. But I do know in that moment I said, that I was really going to get my shit together,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
basically. And
yeah.
it's not that I really wasn't. I've always been a responsible kid. It's just I say that at the time. I feel like I was a kid. I was basically an adult, but I've always been responsible.
Mhm.
And but I just wasn't making the best decisions. I wasn't around the best people. I was not being involved in the best things. Um, and so it was just a quick switch. I just said, no, I don't want it around me anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want anything around me that can get me in trouble. I don't
yeah.
want anybody around me that's going to bring me trauma. And it was an easy switch. That's why I have such a hard time, when I hear stories with these parents that they just have so much going on in their life where it's negatively affecting their child, and they can't choose to step away from it.
Yeah.
They can't choose to change their life. And I'm like, it was simple for me. I said, "Oh, nope, mm-mm."
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen." But I don't. I think I'm still stepping into that purpose of
You're
being a mom.
evolving,
Yeah, I'm
daily. Yeah,
evolving. I do feel
yeah.
like motherhood was the most successful thing I ever did.
So I wanna ask you this question because you said that you ended up marrying your son's father. Did you feel that
Mhm.
there was a pressure to marry him as opposed to just co-parenting?
Yeah, absolutely. And the pressure really more so came from my upbringing and my belief system, more
Mhm.
so than it did people outside verbalizing it to me.
Yeah.
Um, so just the way I was raised, it was, don't have a child out of wedlock. Uh, and so we both kind of just wanted to do things the right way, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we did. We just hopped into a marriage thinking, okay, we're both pretty good people. We're both responsible. We'll figure it out along the way.
Mhm.
But there was not any love there. There was not connection there. Um, we got along for the most part, but whatever you would need to make a relationship work, we did not have that
You
at
didn't have.
all. So it didn't last long. It took
Yeah,
about a year and a half before we were
yeah.
like, okay, we need to stop playing house. And that's when I realized, just because you get married or you're dating someone and you get married and you have a baby, it doesn't mean that you have a household.
Very true, and very, very good point. So, raising a Black son now, and you're in the South, what
Hmm.
kind of fears and thoughts go through you daily, just thinking about his safety, thinking about where we are in the world, thinking about, I know you're homeschooling him, but just
Hmm.
even if he goes out to play basketball or anything, what are constant things that run through your mind just having to raise a Black son?
So you know what? I don't think that ever turns off, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't even realize how much I think about it um until something happens. So actually something happened recently. He was out playing at the park. Um and there was this young girl that came out with these fake guns, like
Mm,
little toy guns. And the sun was setting, which I thought was kind of strange, but the girl was I think she was Hispanic maybe. She was very light and her hair was really long. And she just ran out and she had these guns and she was pretending to shoot people. And the kids were like laughing and it's like watching a movie. And I'm like,
Mm.
where's this girl's parents? Her parents weren't even there. They were in their house. I guess she walked to the park. And my son went to grab one of the guns to like play with. And I immediately stopped him and I was like, no, we gotta go home. You
Mm.
can't play, you can't play like this. And all the other kids continued to play. And I was like, man, and some of their parents were there. That girl that brought them out, they weren't there, but the other parents were just sitting there. And I'm like, is nobody saying what's going on? Because if my
Yeah.
son, I think about these things. My son is black, and although he's light skinned, he's obviously black. Like you can look at him and not know that he's black. If he came out of the house, running out of the house with two guns in his hand, even though they're fake, you know, how would I know that people would think he's playing?
Right. And
You
we've
know?
seen the result of that happening to Mir Rice. We've
Yeah,
seen that happen with Tamir Rice.
yeah.
You know what the result of that situation is going to be.
Yeah. So that just recently happened. And I just remember sitting there watching and like none of the parents were saying anything. And I was the only parent, which I was the only black parent too,
Yeah.
with a black child there that was playing and no one else had, it didn't even cross their mind. So in moments like that, I'm like, wow, I really have to think about things that other people just don't have to worry about,
Right. Right.
you know? Um, and then there's so many other things like, I feel like I have to watch him more when we're out in public. I always get nervous about him not getting fair treatment in certain
Hmm.
situations. Like he's going to be trying out for a swim team, which is predominantly Asians and white people.
Yeah.
And I do worry about that. I worry about, you know, just the demographic and how he's going to be treated and how they might treat me because I'm a single mom versus the other parents that might still be together and they have,
Yeah.
full households. So there's it never turns off. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
constant.
There's no
And I
way
feel
it
like I'm
can.
always strategizing, trying to like be one step ahead, just in case something happens, which can
Yeah.
be stressful at
Of
times.
course. And for you, I mean, you're balancing not only having to protect your black son, teach him, but you're also running your own business and trying to balance that as well. So, how have you, I mean, how do you stay sane when you're running your business, but you're also trying to shepherd your son and help him grow and help him achieve all the things that he wants to?
I don't know. I don't know how I stay sane. I don't. I think I
I
just
love
kind
that
of
simple answer. You're like, girl, I do not know.
I really don't know. I mean, I have my moments. Um, especially like right now in this during this COVID,
Hmm.
that's just something else. But I try not to, at least me, this is just the way I am. I try not to pile too many titles on top of myself because I know that will mentally weigh on me.
For sure.
Um, because I could go down the list if I wanted to say I do this, 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 and this. I'm overwhelmed, but I really try not to do that because I know that it's just kind of my reality. It's the life that I chose. And I also remember, when I was working for a corporation where I have a 9 to 5 or 9 to 7, however long they wanted us to work. Um, and it didn't make me happy. And I didn't get to have the time with my son that I get to have
Mm,
now. So I'm always kind of comparing, like, this isn't bad. I
right.
could, I could, we all have struggles, right? You just got to pick your struggle
Hmm.
and then kind of like figure out how you want to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I chose to be an entrepreneur and and raise my child and homeschool him. And the
Which,
only reason I homeschooled him was because of the Texas laws with the
yes.
schooling. They didn't know what was going to happen. They're requiring some kids to go to school. Some of them they don't have to. If you do go, you don't have to wear a mask. I mean, it's all up in the air. And
Yeah.
he had COVID before, so did I. and I just don't want to mess with it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take you out, and
You had
I'm
to make
gonna,
the best decision for you and for your son.
yeah, yeah. No,
Because
I'm not playing with health.
absolutely not. But it's interesting that you said, when you were working a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 7, that you didn't get as much time with your son as that you would have hoped. But a lot of entrepreneurs in the beginning, you have to put in almost double that time to even get your business off of the ground. So were there ever feelings of doubt or just kind of hesitation of starting up a business because you knew how much work it was going to take to create your own business?
Oh yeah. I mean, I still have doubts now, to be honest with you. And I, even though I get to, I think maybe it might be a little bit of a mirage, like maybe a little bit of a delusion that I spend more time with my kid, because maybe I don't. Maybe I just have a say so over my schedule now. So
Yeah.
it feels like I do. But when I'm really busy and I have to, have somebody watch him, or I have to have, which thank God I have both of my parents that are within an hour from me. So
Yeah, that's a
if I
blessing.
need help, they're there. And my boyfriend also, he'll help me from time to time. But um, I do feel guilty when I
Hmm.
leave my son with other people when I'm working and hustling. Sometimes I wonder if he's going to grow up and remember me as like, mom was always working. She was always trying to bust her butt and make things happen. So, I think about those things too, but I'm like, I gotta sacrifice somewhere,
For
you
sure.
know,
For
to
sure.
do it. And homeschooling is um luckily the program I have them in actually has like a home teacher. So they do have somebody that teaches them online, but I still have to make sure he gets through his assignments and that he's not behind. And it's just I just can't make it about me.
Mm.
I have to just be on top of it every day. And there's
Yeah.
times when I just want to take breaks. Like I've truly doubted myself to the point where I'm like, I don't even know if I can do this.
Mm.
I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if should I send him back to school? Should I just go back and get a regular job? I've had all those thoughts. And I probably will more.
For
But
sure.
I just keep like pushing through it.
You have to. You absolutely have to. But like when you're talking about even when he gets older, do you think that looking back that he will appreciate the hard work that you've put in to be able to provide for him?
I think you will. And the only reason why is because both my parents were entrepreneurs.
Mm.
And I remembered how my parents worked, how hard my parents worked. And it actually taught me how to work like effectively,
Yeah.
not just be a good worker, but how to work and how to make work for other people and how to treat other people and how to have long lasting relationships in business. So I learned something from my parents that um, I don't think I could have learned if I would have went to college for business school, because
Mm.
I got to see it hands on. I mean, I was there. We were in the carriages when they were cleaning buildings. My dad and mother had started a janitorial company for commercial buildings. So they would go in at night and clean the whole building, and we would be there sleeping. I remember bringing like a pillow and, just doing what we had to do. But I just remember that work ethic and not really having excuses. So now for me, when I have to get something done and someone says, "Hey, when are you available?" I'm like, okay, well, I can always make arrangements. I can do what I got to do. I've never used like, oh, I got to watch my kids, so I can't go. Unless it's like late at night and he's got to be up in the morning or he
Right.
needs to take a
Right.
test or something. But I've never been that woman that says, "Oh, I can't. I have my kid." And I know a lot of people use their kids as a
Is an
scapegoat.
excuse.
Like, yeah, it's a great excuse, but I'm like, I can't use that as an excuse to not get things done,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially when I don't feel like it. It's so easy to do
It
though.
It is like, just be honest. You just don't want to do this, you know? But I'm
Yeah.
I'm with you there. There's so many times that I wanted to be like, well, actually, John's working late, so I have to be with Sienna. And it's like, really, I just don't want to do what you're
Right.
doing. You mentioned work ethic though from your parents, but what else do you feel that they taught you that you are now using to make yourself the best mom possible?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Yeah, well, my parents, they really kept us involved with what they were doing. So teach me while they were working,
Mm.
about what they were doing, or just little bitty things. Like, I remember my dad telling me, 'cause my dad was in a janitorial business, which janitorial business, they don't get treated the best. And my dad would tell me, to always treat everybody the same, no
Mm.
matter what level you think they're at. I remember him telling me I was really little. Um, I remember him telling me, like, if you can't figure it out, just trust your intuition and see how far you can go. Because he's really good with his hands and fixes a lot of things, rigs a lot of things, I'll say. um, but yeah, I think it's really, if I were to put that in a sentence, I think they just taught me that I'm using now, which I didn't even realize was really to constantly adapt and overcome, whatever you're doing, even if you don't feel like doing it. Just zone in on what you got to do, and complete it, and move on to the next thing. I try to teach my son that with school, because that's his only job right now, which
Mhm.
he does not like doing. He wants to have fun. He wants to play video games. He wants to go outside. Um, and I'm like, okay, let's focus on this. Let's get through it. He also has ADHD, so he's extremely smart, but he's a very short attention span.
Mm.
So it's rough getting him through, you know, an assignment. But I
Yeah.
actually feel more comfortable with him home with me than I did with him in public school, because they just had a very hard time teaching him, because he wasn't, fitting in that box of, what I guess a perfect student would be like.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I get to learn him. I think one of the things that I learned as a mom is, like, just because you had your kid doesn't mean you know them.
Mm. Hmm.
Like, your kid is a whole nother person that you
Yeah.
have to learn. You have to learn their personality. You have to learn what they do and don't like. There's a lot of things you can instill in them and teach them, but they are their own being. And I've had to learn my child. I have to continuously learn him, because I can't just assume, because we all do
Right.
that, especially in the Black culture. Oh, you got that from your mama, you got that
Right.
from your daddy. You just like your auntie, like, and so we put that on these
Yes.
kids, and we don't
Yes.
ever really learn them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had to learn him. I've had to learn him. And there's some things about your child that you're not gonna like either.
Right.
Like, there's
Right.
some things that some personality traits they have, some things that they like, you're just not gonna understand.
Yeah.
And I totally had to learn that the hard way, because I was like, why? I was hitting my head against the wall with him for the first couple of years of school, because I could just not figure out, where he was getting all this energy from, why he was rebellious at school, but at home he was perfect.
Hmm.
I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Um, but it's fun. It's learning another person, and creating another relationship with somebody.
I know for myself, just being a newer mom, because my daughters are 19 months, that as work is coming back, because being a performer and going back to live performances, I do have that sense of guilt. And it
Mhm.
is hard to leave her. How did you kind of overcome those feelings? Or do you still have that little kind of twinge of guilt when you do have to leave your son to go work and leave him with somebody else?
I still have it. It's not as bad as it used to be. Um, but I still have it. And I honestly think that stems from three different things. So, one, innately, I think it's normal to a degree. Two, I think part of it also comes from our belief systems that
Mm.
we have. And then three, I think societal pressures. also because we what people might say, or the way people perceive, women that choose to have a successful career. There's no way she could be a mother too,
Right.
like how
Yep.
is that possible?
Yeah, it's one or the
So
other. Yep.
yeah, so it's like having to balance that, and it's just crazy to me. Like I remember I have so my boyfriend, he has a child with another woman, and she stays at home a lot with the child, a lot. He only works like a couple days a week. And she's compared herself to me a couple times where she's like, well, I can't be successful like Adaire because I don't have, all these people to watch my kid for me. And I was like, I really don't have a lot of people watching my kid for me. I really don't. You'd be surprised how much I take him to work, how
Hmm.
much I take him with me to places. And I don't tell people. Sometimes I just bring them, not
Yeah.
say anything. Now I'm good at gauging, so I know when and where to do that. But I just it's just this idea that women, they either need to be taking care of the nest, or they can be out getting a career, and not having both is just beyond me.
Yeah.
So I have that guilt still. I hear it from different people. Like some I've heard people say like they didn't even know I was a mom. And I'm fine.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't care. I
Huh.
don't care if you know that or not, because it's not, what is that going to change for me? I had to truly get that out of my head, like, because it used to bother me.
Yeah.
It used to bother me that people would say that to me, like, oh wow, if you had a kid, I would have never known.
But it's also interesting because it's like, well, what is your assumption and like what is your view of me now? Now that you know that I'm a mom, like
Yeah.
that shouldn't change my ability to do this job or my ability to do, so on and so forth. Your perception of me
Hmm.
shouldn't change. If anything, it
Yeah.
should make you admire me and respect me even more that I'm doing all of this and I'm a mom,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
actually have a life that I'm managing that you know nothing about. So yeah, it's just, but I've always been that way just in my life in general. Like I have a whole relationship. People don't even know I have a relationship. I do many things, and I just I don't know. This society is just strange, and the pressures they put on people, and
Mhm.
especially women, that have kids. And when people do find out I have a son, they're like, oh, is dad there? And, they start doing all that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay,
And
well.
getting all in your business for no reason. It's like that's
Yeah,
none
just
of your
just
business.
trying to
Yeah.
gauge me in their head, trying to figure
Yeah.
out where do I
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Melinda. I mean, I don't think that ever really goes away. It's just kind of like you just kind of slowly over time, you just accept, like, okay, I have to work,
Yeah.
right? I want to work. I actually have a will to work. I have talents and gifts that I have to share with the world. And then on top of that, you got to kind of just drown out what other people think and
Other
say.
people are
Because,
saying, yeah, absolutely. That definitely will never go away. But do you think that being a mom, and I know that you mentioned that you kind of are co-parenting, but his father lives farther away in Texas. So do you think that being a single mom and basically making all of these decisions for your son on a day-to-day basis, that's also pushing you to work harder in your career?
oh, yeah, yeah, 100%. I guess to answer that, I have already put in my head that um, I'm not going to depend on him.
Mm.
And it's not because I don't like him, or he's, he doesn't live nearby. It's just because of how it's been so far.
Yeah.
And also my parents raised me to be very independent. So it's like you need to always prepare, for not really the worst, but just be ready.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
ready, because you don't know I mean, people move on, they have kids, they have more kids, they sometimes they move, their careers take them other places. I mean, God forbid, but sometimes people pass away. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. And I always said, like, I want to be in a place where I don't have to rely on other people on what to do with my child,
Yeah.
even if it's a daycare system, or I want to make enough money where he can be with me, or I have the option to put him somewhere that is good for him, not just somewhere that I can afford. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So yeah, it makes me work way harder because
Yeah.
I don't like the feeling of not having options.
I love that. I love that. And I definitely resonate with that. But I never viewed myself as being just a mom. And this is
Mm,
no, no shade or whatever to people that do make that decision. I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom now. I'm fine with that. Certain personalities are not made for that. And that's how you are
right,
as well. You're like, no, I'm a worker. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I know what I want. I have passion for this. So it does suck for women that there is this sort of stigma behind you having to choose between your career and being a mom when you can do both and you can do both excellently, which you
right.
clearly are. So you need to give
Oh, thank
yourself
you.
a pat on the
Oh,
back.
thank you.
I mean, it's difficult. And raising a son, like I thought that I was gonna be a boy mom, but then like now that I have a daughter, I'm like, this makes more sense. And as a teacher and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know if I could raise a boy. So more power to you for raising a boy because I just don't think that I could do it. I
Yeah,
just
it's a
don't.
little rough. It's fun though.
I imagine it is. I imagine it
It's a
is.
lot of
And
fun.
I'm very proud of you. But throughout your entire motherhood journey, what do you feel the biggest strength is that you have? One part of the question. Second part is, what do you feel you've learned about yourself over the last 9 years?
Oh my God, this is like a really hard question.
I
I
know, I know.
think, damn, you just like punched me in my chest right there. I'm gonna need to take a drink with that one. Um, I don't, I don't take things personally.
Mm,
I don't take things personally as a mom. I used to, but I learned, like I said earlier, my son he's his own person, his own individual, and I had to separate because we really do this as parents. We tie our children's success and failures to us, directly
yes,
to us. Um, and if our kids aren't doing good, we immediately start beating ourselves up. Like immediately. I mean, and everybody looks at us too. The school, the community, they're like, okay, well, what's mom and dad doing? Which that does matter. I'm not saying it doesn't because you
for
are
sure.
part of your environment. That's just psychology. But you also, like I said, you just have your own individual being trying to figure out their place on this earth. So I learned, well, not learned, but I found that I'm really good at not taking it personally.
I
Like,
love that.
yeah, my son's just out here. He's a little person trying to figure out where he belongs, like most of us are. And I just got to give him space to do that, and not put so much pressure on myself that when he bumps his head or he does something wrong, or he pisses someone off or he makes a bad grade, that it's just always me failing him. That's
Yeah.
probably a big strength that I have. And then one thing that I learned, oh my God, what have I learned? I feel like I'm always learning.
That's the journey of motherhood, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if this is a good answer or not, but this is my answer. But um and I hope this makes sense, but I've learned that he doesn't belong to me.
Hmm.
And he just came here through me. I'm the parent that is here to guide him while he's here on this earth and making his decisions. But um, he is, I always just bring back to him being his own person. He's his own person, and he might discover things in him that are um, far beyond the limitations that I have.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know it. I just hope that I give him the space to uncover, whatever it is he wants to be, whatever he wants to do. Because we tend to only go as far as our parents have gone, maybe just a little bit further, and we do it based off of little things like music or sports, or just the small things that we pick up and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to do because I know I like this early, but I don't want to push my reality on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've learned that um, he doesn't belong to me. He's my responsibility,
Hmm.
but he's not my property. He's not
Yeah.
my he's not me. He's I don't know. I don't even know if that's too close to the first answer, but
Absolutely makes sense, and I think that's a beautiful, beautiful realization. But I'm so grateful for you coming back on and sharing your experience of being a mother, something that is not easy, but is very, very rewarding. So, can you let
it
everyone know
is.
where they can follow you again so they can keep up with your work?
Oh yeah, you can either go to my main webpage, which is www.entertainmentmindframe.com, or you can type in my name on any search engine like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Adaire. Last name is Byerly, and you should see me pop up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And to the listeners, thank you so much for joining me for this 6-part series on motherhood. Next week, we dive into faith and politics, and you're not going to want to miss it. We'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.